way every time. Hey Verlatti, you got a minute? And then a random question pops up like, why does Glenn Booth want to be in Punk's comic? Number 2. We're going to talk to him about that one today. All right, so we're back on Hey Verlatti with another deep dive, sitting with my buddy Glenn Booth virtually from an undisclosed location because you're traveling the United States. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I'll try to keep it quick because I know this isn't what we're here for, but it does relate to being both a software person and an NFT enthusiast. Started in Charlotte with my son, drove to Denver with a quick stop in Kansas City, picked up my wife and daughter in Denver. From there, we went to Aspen, Snowmass, Moab, Arches National Park in Moab, Salt Lake City. We stayed in Lehigh for a few days, then to Boise, Idaho, stayed there for a couple of days, then through Yellowstone National Park to Bozeman, stayed there for a couple of days, then back to Denver, put them on a plane yesterday, and now I'm back in the big mountains of Colorado for a few days with my son still with me. And one of my teammates is actually setting a world record right now, and he's in this area-ish, and I'm hoping to catch up with him too. So a lot has happened in 2 weeks.
That's absolutely incredible, and I would expect nothing less from you. I think you told me a couple years ago you aspire to be a digital nomad, and I think the life that you're living right now is 1,000% that.
I've told people for years that I want to semi-retire, right? And they're like, "Yeah, you're too young, you can't retire." But they don't get that I mean this.
Yeah,
it's like I still work plenty now during adventures like this. Obviously, I work at half a schedule or something a lot of days. But I'm still in touch with everyone. I know what's going on, but I'm able to go do these things that are amazing. And it's the best part about doing marketing and software development. And
well, I've been impressed because over the past couple of days, you've been super involved in what we're going to talk about today. And I've been waking up early here on the East Coast and want to talk to you. I'm like, man, he's probably not up yet. I shoot you a text and you respond back at 4 o'clock your time. I'm like, oh, dude, he is all in right now.
I try to stay on East Coast time when I'm out here, if I can, at least close. Now, NFTs are exciting, right? It's new territory. There's a lot going on. And I haven't been like this in over a decade, I think. When I wake up in the middle of the night, I look at the phone because I've got stuff that's sold. I have things that are bids. I have things I have bids on that might have been bought. And it's a different kind of deal. I sleep hard and I don't get up in the middle of the night generally, but in this time period and this thing I've become so engaged in, it has changed. It's changed my sleep patterns. Let's put it that way.
Well, something that you've been excited about since day one, and I think you were a early adopter of this. You understood like, hey, this is gonna be something. You got me involved. Was Punk's Comics. So that's today's topic. Give us a brief explanation of what is Punk's Comics.
Punk's Comic is one of the projects by Pixel Vault. So the team is Pixel Vault. Punk's Comic is a series of comic books that they are going to release both physical and NFT quarterly is the plan. So the first one that came out is, it's been sold out for a little bit now. It had a really slow burn. It was all wrapped up around this story of early NFTs at a Sotheby's auction, or maybe it was Christie's. It was one of the two big houses where a digital artist had given away art and most people threw it out, right? It was in their goodie bag. They left, they chucked it in the trash. And so out of 300, there was only like 20 in existence. And the values had gone up to around $800,000 based on some sales per little, digital JPEG or whatever, which is mind blowing to most people. But it was a real milestone event in the space. And so they took 16 CryptoPunks that they owned, the Pixel Vault team, made a story out of them. And it was all about this one character, Beanie's quest to get as many of these lost Robbies. So the artist's name was Robbie, these lost Robbies as he could. And they built this story around it and with these characters. Now, the interesting part, so the comic book is cool and it comes with a physical and it comes with an NFT and it comes with a digital PDF. But the really interesting thing that hooked me early was this burn versus stake mechanism. Now, do you want to pause and talk about anything I just said before we get into that? Because that's where it gets like, okay, I need to pay attention for a second to understand the difference between those two things.
So we'll just pause to say, when you first got me into this, like you sent me the link and I was like, oh, that's super cool. It was really early in both of our journey to understand NFTs. I minted 2 of them because I was like, that's plenty for me. I've got one for this burn and stake that we're going to talk about in a little bit. I'm good. And you did the opposite and you went deep early. And I was like, Glenn is absolutely insane. I have no idea what you're doing. Like, why would you ever do that? And ever since kind of that day, I've had regret of like, well, as soon as they sold out, I have regret of why did I not go in deeper? Because the value, and nothing's happened yet, but the value has gone 10x. And I've ended up buying now 2 more in the secondary market, and I've paid a ton for them compared to what I could have originally minted them at, just if I would have just followed your lead. So let's talk a little bit about why you went that deep day one, and then number 2, what does burn and stake mean?
So I will say they weren't inexpensive. So it was really easy to think about it the way you did, because they were 0.2 ETH.
You didn't, but I did.
ETH at that time, I stepped into it a little bit too. I just tend to take a baby step and then a real quick second baby step and then ape in, like just crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So they were 0.2 ETH, and ETH at the time was probably around $2,500 to $3,000. So it was like not inexpensive to do these things.
Yep.
And people were kind of like, oh, I don't know, for a comic book. But then there was this whole burning and staking. So you're going to get this NFT. When you burn an NFT, it means you send it to a particular Ethereum address that no one has access to. It's like the 0 address. And anyone who burns anything, which means it basically disappears, it's still there, but it's like no one can access it. You send them to these addresses. So you can choose to burn your Punks Comic NFT, and certain things happen if you do that. Or you can choose to stake it, which means that you're basically putting it aside and saying, I won't sell it, I'll keep it. And that's a monthly basis. A lot of times staking is years long. Like in Ethereum 2, I think they want you to lock your stuff up for a long time. This is, you can come in and out of it. There's really no benefit to just holding it and not doing either, unless you're just going to sell it immediately. So if you burn your NFT, that means it no longer resides in your wallet. So that really nice comic book cover artwork no longer shows up in your wallet. You also don't get the physical comic. So if you burn your comic, they're going to burn. They actually thought about burning it, but they didn't want to be so environmentally unfriendly, right? Because it'd be kind of a cool, like, here's a stack of 4,000 comics. We're going to light them on fire, just like you lit your NFTs on fire. So what they're going to do is pulp them, make artwork out of them, sell it, that is going to then benefit the people that are in the project. Okay. So that's on the staking side. So we'll come back to that. So, they're going to do that. In exchange for burning your token, you are going to get a Founders Vault token. The Founders Vault currently has, I don't know, $1 million to $1.5 million worth of digital artwork in it. So by having a Founders token, you have a little piece of that. For every comic you burn, you get 1 token. So if 5,000 burn, and you have 10 of those, then you are 10 out of 5,000 owner in this DAO that is going to, keep building up on this artwork. So they're going to add to it every project they do, and they're just going to add random stuff. They're talking about adding physicals too. #1 Superman, #1 Batman. Like, it's really cool where this could go. So I've always been kind of heavy stake because I like the idea of having fractional ownership in this really valuable pile of art.
So yeah, I mean, I'll pause you there. Like, they have the CryptoPunks are in the vault, and you and I probably will never be able to afford a CryptoPunk, even though you're getting close with all this flipping you're doing. But the idea that we're fractional owners of a group of punks is as cool as it's probably going to get for me, and it's a cool thing.
I could actually buy a CryptoPunk now pretty easily. I would have to liquidate.
Baller.
I would have to liquidate a lot of my stuff, but when I started this literally weeks ago, I thought it was out of reach.
Yeah.
So it's been an amazing ride. So I like burn, but a lot of people really struggle with that. I paid 0.2 Ethereum for this thing, and now I don't have it.
I'm gonna light it
okay,
up.
I have fractional ownership in this other thing. Okay, what does that mean? You can't sell it. I mean, the DAO can choose to sell stuff, and you'll have a vote in that by having tokens. But I get it that people struggle with that a little bit.
Okay.
So then on the staking side, they have something like 18 million, maybe 180 million. They have a lot of these Punks tokens. Every month you stake, you're going to get some portion of those tokens. It's going to happen over 2 years. The same amount are available every single month. If you're staked that month, you're going to get your share based on how many people stake that month. So I think for each comic you stake, if you do it the whole 2 years, they're saying you'll end up with about 30,000 Punks tokens. Now the Punks tokens get you a share of the revenue of merch sales against these Punks brands. It's also going to get you a portion of the Meta Heroes minting revenues, which we can talk more about Meta Heroes in a second. It's another Pixelvault project. And so there's a financial mechanism where you share in the revenue of these projects. It's a really fascinating, NFT space in general, because it's all about the community. And Pixelvault has thought so thoroughly and carefully about how do I take this community that without them, we'd have nothing, give back to them, make it sustainable. It still has to be a business. They still have to make money. And then have these two push-pull of burn and stake. And how do you choose? It's like hard to know what the value is long-term.
Yeah.
There's been some really good write-ups that you and I read this week. I'm still heavier burn. For whatever reason, I think these founders tokens, I'm still going to get plenty of Punks tokens too. And I'm not a whale. I have 11 of these things, tier 4. So it's not, I also wish I went much bigger. If I was sitting on 50 of these things, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not doing it justice. Like, you really need to go to punkscomic.com and like look at the tokenomics and see, but this is like high level, kind of broad brush strokes. This is what it is. So when I first heard about it, was amazed by this. And so Sports Cheetah, one of the guys on the founding team, used to work at ESPN, and he still is a big sports betting guy in that community. He helped really develop these game theory mechanics of like, should I burn? Should I stake? It's great. And I heard him on a few podcasts. He hooked me instantly. And I called 5 people that were getting into this space with me. And I said, you have to buy these. And for most people, it was 2 or 3 or 4 phone conversations, because it was hard to like burn it. Why would I do that? What does staking mean? And luckily, every single person I recommended it to got in on it and has had amazing growth, even though they all wish they had bought more in the beginning. But that's kind of par for the course.
I think the first conversation that you and I had, you sent me the link and you said, I don't understand what burn and stake means yet, but the artwork's super cool. I believe in what they're doing. It's really well thought out. Buy some, and we're going to learn what burn and stake means and figure out that part of it. But you are 1,000% correct. And I'm really glad that I got in at some level. And I'm excited that I would have been able to acquire 2 more. So I have a total of 4, and I'm going to burn 2, stake 2. So for me, it's a little bit easier. And I am really curious what the community is going to end up doing with their ratio of burn versus stake. But nevertheless, I mean, just the community that they're building is best in class from what I've seen so far.
The founders and the art guy. So Chris Wall is the artist. He's amazing. They now have a second artist working on Meta Heroes with Chris. He's a DC and a Marvel comic book artist, legit professional. And he's doing all the artwork. And him, Beanie, G-Funk, all the other founders, all the mods are in the Discord every day talking to everyone, whether you own a Punks comic or not. They're listening. They're putting out ideas. They're seeing it. I mean, it is phenomenal. And they're not the only project. A lot of projects in this space do that, but that's been phenomenal for me. I have become closer to Chris Wall. I bought a piece that included a custom pencil sketch. So I bought an NFT, and because of that, he let me choose a character from comic issue 1. I chose the futurist, the artist, because the story couldn't happen without him. And he's going to literally make me a 1-of-1 pencil sketch and send it to me. So they're doing all these things all the time. They're like super engaged. It's not the way my clients on the website world mostly want me to build a website and hope customers just come and give them money or give them whatever their call to action is. And they don't really want to get involved at a deeper level. Like in this world, you have to. I feel like the best marketers in the world are in the NFT space.
Yeah, it's something you and I talk a lot about because we are unfortunately trying to convince people that NFTs are real and they have value, and it's an exciting space to be in. And they're all like, "Well, I don't get it. Why don't I just make a couple JPEGs and people will buy them?" It's like, no, that's not what it is. Number one, and number two, you don't have the following, and you're not willing to invest in the community in order to make those JPEGs valuable. I mean, the amount of time that these founders are putting into the Discord channels in all the projects. I mean, in order for them to have any level of success, whether it's founders, artists, whatever, you have to be in, and you have to be in with a significant time investment in order for guys like us to even think about participating in their project.
Absolutely. Let's go back to VeeFriends for just a second. You and I already did a deep dive. I need to go back and listen to that because you and I know so much more now. I bet our takes would be 180, on that. But VeeFriends had garbage artwork, right? Let's just say it. But they were from the heart. They were Gary Vee. He isn't an artist. He took his Sharpie out and he made these things. So as I was showing people, like, dude, get in this space. I heard all the time, I could do that. My daughter could do that. I'll put it up. I'll get rich. But the difference is people like Gary Vee, and he has a following, and he's been giving insane value for years. No one knows you. You have like 3 friends in the real world. Like, who's going to buy it? Like, it was hard for people to make this thing of, oh, it's just a stick figure I can draw on a piece of paper. No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, this ghost project that I'm part of, luckily through a trade, which has gone bananas, the guy just posted his first ghost he ever drew when he was 4 years old that he had found, and his mom. That thing's going to go for 100 ETH.
Yeah.
Because it's ghost, not because he drew a little kid drawing, right? Like like that part is the part that you need to get, and the community is the key to growing that.
Yeah. All right. So I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, which you and I can definitely have a tendency to do, especially in a topic like this. So really what I wanted to talk to you about today is Punk's Comic announced that they are going to do issue number 2. They're going to do a second comic, and they're going to feature some of the characters from the Bored Ape Yacht Club in issue number 2. And the community was able to submit their apes, and they created a bracket of apes to compete in order to be in issue number 2. So before we get started, let's just quick 20 seconds, 50 seconds on what is the Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Bored Ape Yacht Club is the second big avatar project in the NFT space. So CryptoPunks that you already mentioned was number 1. This was number 2. So there's 10,000 apes. Each one is unique. Some are rarer than others. Some are more aesthetic than others, but it's a club. If you want to be in the club, you have to have one of these apes. It gets you special access to a website, special access to merch drops. More importantly, it gets you connected to other apes in Twitter and other places. And there's all kinds of collaboration and cool stuff going on. So it's a club that's all, the membership card is you own one of these apes.
All right. So when apes first dropped, it was one of the first ones that I looked at that the art was super cool. The avatars, each ape is an avatar. The avatars were really well done. You and I were on vacation together in Milwaukee. We both got excited about them. And I had a little bit of ETH, you had a little bit more, and you full aped in and you bought a handful of apes. We went back and forth a bunch. I ended up with one, which I feel really fortunate to own. I love them. I'm probably never going to sell them. I wish I would have more apes. But there was one in particular that you bought during that trip that I think it was that trip or right before it, that you, like from day one, you believed in. This is your guy. You're not selling him. And that was the guy that you submitted to Punk's Comic to compete in this contest. So tell me a little bit about Lone Star Sokka and why you love him.
Yeah. So one quick point I'll make about Bored Ape Yacht Club, even the simple ones, the less rare ones, look amazing. I think that's a lesson for every project. Mm-hmm. Like there was one called Degens that launched that had a couple super hot ones, and then most of them kind of and that was a mistake. And even the founders said, yeah, all apes are desirable. Yep. Now, that said, some are just badass. So as I was going through So one thing to note is when we first started buying them, the floor price of an ape was 0.36. It is now over 6 ETH, like in a matter of weeks. It's amazing how crazy these have gone.
Put that in English for people. What is that in USD?
Well, the price fluctuates every day, so that's challenging.
Yeah, random price, ballpark. I know you're a math guy.
So 0.3 at the time, let's say that was $1,000. Now they are, because ETH is lower, like $12,000, right?
And so we went from $1,000 to $12,000, and it's only been a month, 2 months?
2 months, 2 months or less.
Okay.
So I really love Cyborg Eye, which is one single robotic eye, and what they call the jovial face, which is this big cheesy smile thing. And maybe you can flash up a picture of Lone Star Socket here or something, people will see. So I started looking for that combination, and I found a cheetah ape, so cheetah fur, with the cyborg, with a cowboy hat and a cowboy shirt. And it was 2.2 ETH, which was way out of my budget, right? I was looking at apes and buying a few at like 0.4. I even went way out of my comfort zone and bought one at 0.7. Yeah. I saw this dude and I bought him. And it was one of the best moves I ever made. And I've since found out, not only is he just cool looking with that cyborg eye and that face, there's only 4 that have matching cowboy hat and cowboy shirt. So he's pretty rare too, for at least in the cowboy enthusiast world.
Well, and that I think is the difficult thing for people that are trying to get into the NFT space. It's something that I struggle with is, you're not sure what's rare or not. And regardless of what the algorithm says, it has a lot to do with what the community says has value. So you aped in originally, and you liked, I think it's DMT is what it's called, where it basically has like eyeballs all over the fur. And you thought that was going to be rare, and that was cool. And as you started listening to the Discord community and Twitter and everything else, you really figured out that cheetahs might be a little bit more desirable than this DMT. And then you found Lone Star Socket and said, okay, this is my guy. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I had the DMT when I bought the cheetah.
Yep.
Okay. And I went into the cheetahs. There's subgroups inside of these sub communities, and Cheetah Gang is one of them. And it's one of the strongest. So DMT fur is actually a little more rare, I think, I'm pretty sure. But the cheetahs and the DMTs have this like rivalry. And it's all in good fun, but it's serious business.
Yeah. And you love that. Like, you love the rivalry. As soon as you saw that and the Cheetah Gang saying like, we're a thing and we're going to hold, like, you were like, all right, these are my people.
Like, a lot of these cheetahs are priced at 420 ETH because that's what this community does. And that's the signal, that's $1 million or something.
Yeah.
And that's the signal to the world. This isn't really for sale. Cheetahs, like, we're diamond hands. Like, this is serious business here. And so I ended up selling my DMT, not because they forced me to or anything. I mean, I couldn't be in their Discord and flaunting my DMT and saying he was better than that would be really bad. But I ended up selling really because I was like, you know what? I like this Cheetah Gang. I like what they stand for. They really support each other. And DMTs do too, I'm sure. I'm not in their subgroup, never have been. But I liked it. And so I sold that DMT, made some good profits on it, luckily. And then my first matchup in Punk's comic bracket was against the DMT ape, which was super cool because the memes kind of write themselves, right? Because this rivalry is so strong.
All right, so that's probably a great segue, which is Punk's comic had people submit their apes. They selected a group of apes that they thought had the potential to make it into the magazine, into the comic. They created a bracket, and you competed in a bracket style on your way to, I think they call it an Elite 8. So you basically had to come up with a storyline. So you had to name your ape, you had to write a little story about them. They posted all of that on their website, and then people got to vote in the community. So when that went down originally, I saw the bracket, and I start going, okay, here's where Lone Star Sock is, and here's who I think he can beat and think he can beat and think he can beat. And you had some tough matchups, including that first one against the DMT. I thought, oh, these guys are not playing around, but it just shows you how thoughtful they are in their entire process. And I thought you had a hell of a battle. So why was it important for you to compete in that? And why did you invest the time, energy, and ultimately ETH in order to make sure that you came out on top?
So they pitted me against a DMT ape in the first one. And I think they were smart about, they knew Cheetah and DMT were one of the best rivalries in the community. And so they played on that. So there was a couple of those. One of my favorite connections on Twitter owned this DMT ape that they put me up against. And so I was
That's
a little
tough.
bit sad. I was a little bit sad, honestly, because this is like the nicest guy in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And I found out since then, he actually is new to NFTs also. A VFriend was his entry into this space, which is
Oh,
true of a
wow.
lot of people. Gary
Yeah.
brought in a lot of new people. So he is super chill and not very aggressive. And so he wasn't
Just like you.
he wasn't posting a meme or two a day. Like I would find pictures of cheetahs chasing antelopes and put his DMT face on the antelope and my cheetah face on the cheetah, and like, you know, just another day on the African prairies, baby. I'm coming for you. Like, and people loved that stuff, right? Like this
Yeah.
world is a meme loving world.
Yep.
And so that matchup turned out to be not really challenging, right? Like I won pretty handily in round one.
You smoked the nice guy. That's a shame.
Well, I would get messages from him. Number one, he would retweet all my memes and stuff, right? So he was almost telling people,
Yeah.
oh my God, go, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And he would message me and say, you are doing an amazing job. Oh my God, this one was a fun one. You know, like it was,
Yeah.
and what I found in this community is that's what happens. Like
Yeah.
we're competing and things like this, but the community is super supportive. So then in round two, I didn't do as much memeing. I did a little bit, but I was like at a comfortable lead the whole time. And I had a lot going on. I was getting ready for this trip. And luckily I won because I was up against a space ape who was super cool.
He was really cool. Yeah.
Really cool. I got a couple big endorsements from people. Cheetah Gang is really strong at like promoting Cheetah Gang. So that was super helpful. The third round is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
So there's two apes, gold fur and trippy fur, that are very desirable in this space. They're very rare. Everyone wants them. They're worth tons of money. And I was up against a trippy fur ape. And not only that, I was up against a trippy fur ape with a huge following.
Yeah.
He's got a huge collection. He owns multiple CryptoPunks. He owns like 9 apes. I knew,
Yeah.
like, I had my work cut out for me in this one. I'm not a give up kind of guy, but I definitely knew that there was a good chance that I didn't stand a chance.
So
on this one.
When I looked at the bracket originally, that's kind of the way I figured it was going to go down. And I felt like when you got to that point, it was going to be trouble. And I think the day that section of the voting went down, I called you and was like, I don't know what you got to do, but you got to do something because this is going to be a battle. That dude is straight fire. You need to go and you need to go deep.
Well, I went the first morning. So the voting opened at night. And the next morning when I woke up, I was down 60% to 40%.
I know, that's when I voted. And that's when I called you and I was like, we got a problem.
I got a message from Kenshiro, who is the owner of that ape and that contestant. And he was so super cool. It was very much like John Sims from the first round. And he was like, your ape is fire. This is going to be fun. No matter who wins, this has been amazing. I'm going to support Punk's comic. I'm going to support all apes, you know, nice to meet you, basically.
Yeah.
So we had a nice little exchange. I mean, it was super cool. And then I talked to you and I actually considered possibly giving away an ape in a giveaway. And ultimately I decided what was maybe not more valuable at the time. In the long term, I think that there's an argument for it, but really just the context of the contest was giving away a Punk's comic was the best prize. And I had one that included a signed physical from Chris Wall. So Chris Wall is going to sign that thing before he ships it to you.
So let me slow you down just for a second. So you knew that you were in trouble and needed to do something different. You felt like the way to separate yourself from the pack was to come up with a giveaway to where it incentivized people to vote. And you ran a Twitter campaign. correct?
Yes. So I told people, if you want to win this Punks comic, if you want to be in the running, you have to go to Punks comic, you have to connect your wallet, you have to vote for me, and then send me a screenshot of your vote. Because it's the only way. Like, I don't know. Punks comic knows what the votes are. I don't know.
Yep.
So people were screenshotting and either commenting on my tweet, or I said, DM to me if you want, because I knew some people were friends with Kenshiro. They still wanted a chance and they voted for me. And people were messaging me that. Like, thank you for having DM as an option. You know, Kenshiro is like one of my favorite people in this space, but I really want a Punks comic. So it was the perfect prize. And I added more as we went, like each day.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't stop there. That helped you a bunch, and you saw a bunch of lift, whether it was because of that or other reasons, but you saw lift. And you and I talked about, like, all right, you're doing better. The tide turned, you were doing better, but you weren't going to give up. You went to the very end, and every day you added more and more and more giveaways to this, where I think you had, what did you end up with? 8 different prizes?
I had 8 winners. Yeah, so I took the lead after the first day. Like, it was pretty amazing. Like, people really want these Punks comics.
It was a
and
big
those people who wanted him at 0.2, and now the price was like 1.3, it was out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they had all this remorse. So people really wanted that prize. Now, Kenshiro also tweeted and said, listen, if you go vote for him instead of me, no hard feelings. This is an opportunity to get into one of the best projects in the space. So that was like super honorable. So again,
yeah, class.
This community is amazing. He wasn't giving up. He wanted to win, but he also was letting his followers know, if you missed out on this, here's a chance. Like, this is a really good chance. So I did take the lead, but I knew he was a stand-up dude. I knew he had a huge following. I knew if he wanted to come back and offer better prizes to me, he could, like, totally. So the ex-Marine in me kicked in, the entrepreneur, scrappy, like 20 years of like trying to make a business work. I just went all in as hard as I could every day, added prizes every day, responded to every single person who DM'd me or commented, liked my stuff. Like, I was traveling cross country without service a lot of time. Like, this was super challenging, but I did not let up. My foot was to the floor the entire time because I wanted to win. So it wasn't like I gave away about, probably say $8,000 to $10,000 worth of prizes at that value of that time.
Yep.
Like, my buy-in on those was much cheaper. So just to be clear with everyone, but at the time I was giving away stuff that was worth a lot. I wanted that prize, and the time investment was more than the financial giveaways. Like, I invested everything I could in making sure the people that voted knew I heard them. I appreciated their vote. And because of that, my Twitter brand and my following has grown tremendously. I mean, that part has been one of the great side effects, which I thought would happen, but not to the extent that it did.
Yeah, that's the other part is, number one, you wanted to make sure that your 8 made it into the comic. Number 2, you really are a big believer in community building, and you have done a great job of building a Twitter following and also building a little street cred by doing this. And it wasn't just the giveaways. It was the memes that you were creating on a daily basis, the vote for me, all of that. I mean, it was funny, it was good, it was engaging. And every time I went on Twitter, I saw you, like, talking back and forth with people that had voted or hadn't, or, I mean, I got tired of the text messages from you that are like, dude, retweet this, get on this, come on, help me out. Do you know anybody that has a Twitter following that can help? I'm like, yeah, I know people, but do they have a MetaMask wallet that'll enable them to end up helping vote for you? And you're like, I don't care. Just go all in, go as hard as we can. But nevertheless,
listen, my dream is that Rutledge Wood one day promotes one of my things. Like, he's the, like I know Rutledge a tiny bit through you.
Yeah.
He's awesome. One day he's going to look at one of my giveaways and be like, this is amazing. Glenn got me into NFTs and crypto. And then here's a great thing. So, hey, Rutledge, if you're watching this, man, you're on my radar screen.
Yeah, he's not watching, nor does he care. All right. So, all right. So Lone Star Sokka ends up winning the competition. You are one of 8 elite apes that are going to be featured in Punk's Comic 2. I think we've established that it was important to you. Like, what role do you think that Sokka is going to play in this issue? Like, is he going to be a
So,
main character? Is he going to be a sideline character? What do you think?
so I received more votes than any other ape in the contest. So
That's because
Pixel
you did a
Vault,
huge giveaway.
Pixel Vault has told me that. They haven't told me how many, they're keeping that kind of behind the curtains, but they did say that by a pretty good margin, I had the most votes. So I'm assuming that that will help me be one of the main characters, and maybe all 8 will be main characters. I don't know. So there's a private channel in their Discord now for the Elite 8 that made it. And they
Oh, wow.
they actually just went in there and said, over the next week or two, Josh is going to be coming in and talking to each of us about our characters and the storyline and all that. So we're going to have a say, I think. At least they're going to listen to our thing about like what the comic story could be and how could it be better or whatever. I think Lone Star Sokka is a villain. He looks like a villain. So kind of my backstory is Chris Sokka is a famous investor in Silicon Valley. So he wears those cowboy shirts just like my guy does. And that's why he's Lone Star Sokka. And he was the OG ape in Twitter land. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but he is like an ape at heart, right? So that's how I came up with the name. And I said, he's a famous oil tycoon from Texas who has plenty of money to get what he wants. But if someone won't sell, the cyborg kicks in and he goes and kicks ass and takes names, right? So that's like my backstory.
Got it.
So he feels like a villain, but Beanie, the punk, and I mean, he's a villain on Twitter. He's a villain in the comic book. Like, is it competing villains? Are they co-villains? Like, it's going to be super interesting to see. And I'm open to their direction. They just hired a professional comic book writer, a professional video game guy that's more for Meta Heroes. They have Chris Wallen now, another professional. So I'm along for the ride. I'm glad they're listening to us, and I'm going to try to have input, but I'm super open to them doing cool things. But villain, it feels like villain.
It's really exciting to see what they're doing and what they're creating. I think it's amazing that you've gotten to participate in this. When they first announced it, we were excited. It was kind of a no-brainer that you were going to compete this way. I'm excited that he's going to be featured. I think the value of your ape is gonna go up. That's not why you did it. You're a hold guy. Like, you don't necessarily care. I get excited for you because I'm like, that has to be a game changer. But regardless, it'll just be exciting to have an issue, have a copy of issue number 2. I hope they actually do physical prints because I want to put it on my wall. And if so, to see him featured in that, and then to understand all that we've gone through in this journey together over the last, really, it's just been a couple months, is incredible. And it's super exciting.
I love what Pixel Vault is doing.
Yeah.
I love that they're mixing DeFi crypto technology with great artwork and storylines and community involvement. Not everyone loves that team, Beanie in particular. Like, there's some weirdness in there with some people. I love what they're doing. I am a huge believer. That's really why I wanted to be in the comic. I love the fact that I'm going to have a comic and I'm going to be able to show people, like, check out, like, this is my guy. See him. Look at, he's in this comic book. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge believer in what Pixel Vault is doing. Meta Heroes is going to be huge. Let's not go there. They're trying to be the next Marvel. It's going to be very low chance they succeed, but if they do, it's going to be insane. Everyone should go check out Meta Heroes. Maybe put a link in the show notes or something. But I'm just a huge believer in that team and what they're doing. And I love the tech and I love the art. And I just love the community. I love everything about it.
So speaking of the community, you are one of 8 other apes that'll be featured. Do you have another favorite? Is there an ape that you think is super cool that you're excited that has made the Elite 8?
They're all super cool. BBA, Boring Bored Ape, is he's a Cheetah Gang member, but his main avatar is not. And he's just like such a solid dude on Twitter. He like embodies the boringness of bored apes so well. And you see a lot of other people copying him, and that's how, like, he really is great. And he's got a couple side projects of his own. So I just love that one. I love them all. Like, it's hard to say. Captain Trippy and Schiller are 2 big names in the space, really battled it out. They were 50-50, and Schiller came out on top. And he's got a really cool zombie ape, just like yours. And I think he's going to be a big character. He's huge in the space, has a Twitch show. Like, they're all great. I mean, it was it was battles till the end. I mean, it was fun, man. It was fun. I'm surprised I got more votes than those two guys because they had big fun and they were battling. But I did have the best giveaway. Like, I went super big, punch you in the face on day one, and I got a lot of people involved that didn't have this on their radar screen. Like, I think I brought new eyeballs to the project too, which is super cool. Like, I'm happy to do that. You know, that was a great side effect, is like new people that had never heard of Punk's comic were voting for me.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they end up doing with this issue number 2. I'm also excited to see what the future is. What will 3 and 4 be like? Will we potentially see some of the Bored Ape Kennel Club avatars included in that? Like, they've recently released dogs to companion the apes. And I just think that all of this is really well thought out, really well done, and it's super exciting to see the progress that they're making. So we're 42 minutes in. So in closing, what do you think is the future of Lone Star Saka? And if I walk in tomorrow with 40 ETH, 80 grand, you selling them to me?
Nope.
Not a chance? Come on.
That's actually easy for me to answer.
Okay.
And I only paid 2, right? Like, so I get it. I've been offered 10. I couldn't sell at 10. And at the time, 10 was huge in this space. Not as huge now for 8 prices. If you sold, you were out of the running for Punk's comic. So I couldn't sell. Like, I guess there would be a price. There's always a price, right? But I wasn't selling for 10.
I don't know. There's not typically a price for you. I mean, once again, there's always a price, but you're crazy in general and you don't care. Like, ETH is not cash to you. It means nothing. You just use it in order to participate in these type of projects, and you want to be in projects like this that you're in. So, I mean, Warren Buffett would have to back up a truck in order to get Saka from you.
Yeah, I don't know what the price is, and I'm certainly not entertaining any offers until issue 2 is out. We see what that does. I'm gonna have like a really solid combination of things right in the future. Like, look a year down the road, I've got a really desirable ape. I've got a comic book that he was in with NFTs. I have matching physicals. I have a whole bunch of really cool derivatives that I've made, like a little baby version of my guy.
The baby one is awesome. That is the coolest thing ever. I want to do one of my guy, but I just don't know. It is super, super cool.
There's a long line. Like, everyone wants those little babies. And I honestly think I was like so far down the list, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think he bumped me up when I won Punk's comic because it helped him with awareness around it, which is cool. So I'm going to have this like package, like, hey, like, and what is that worth? I don't know. Like, at some point we still live in the real world, even though I like to pretend that we don't. And this is real, like, really value.
Yeah.
Like, down the line. So I don't know. I don't know what the price is, but it's not 40. So if you're coming with, I got an offer this morning for like 6.5, it's laughable. Like, come on, but these are bots. It's not real people. And they, they're hoping for the best, but yeah, not 40. Don't know what the number is.
Too much. Well, I'm excited that you won this contest. I totally understand why you went as deep as you did. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the character plays out. I think that's going to be cool for the project and cool for us as friends. So thanks for spending some time with me this morning. I know you woke up early there. You think have 1 cup of coffee in you. Your kid's still asleep on the couch there in that Airbnb. He's probably tired of hearing all this NFT talk, but nevertheless, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun times. And for anyone who's Twitter's like my jam now. So anyone wants to connect on Twitter. Yeah. Well, I just love it. Right. Like, I've had a Twitter account for so long, and it was me, and like NFTs have supercharged Twitter, in my opinion, crypto Twitter in general. So, hit me up on Twitter, and I'm following some great people too. Like, it's a great space. So if you're not on Twitter, give it a try. If you are there, find me.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, Holmes.
Later.
Yes, sir. You already know what this is. This is history in the making. Punk's taking over. 2017 to forever. Hey, Beanie, I got you, bruh. You know the punks made history, like the Robbies at Christmas. Welcome back to Origin City. And they say the top lonely, but we going up only. And they might have outbid me, but they never outdid me. Fresher than the day that they met me. And they say the top lonely, but we going up only. Yeah, sneak attack, spit $1 million raps. Got $1 billion plan and a helicopter hat. This ain't reggae, but the Beanie Man back. No Roman, only Spotty on the track. I'm super rare like a dare and truth or dare. Digital gold, what you think it's a souvenir? I'm not new to this. Y'all don't hear me like the futurist. I can introduce you what to do with this. More treasure on a USB than you could ever try to measure with some USD. And here's a word to the wise. I got it out the mud. You heard otherwise? That's nothing but fun. Lost Robbie's hard to find like an artifact. Got a goodie bag with me. Where the party at? 2017's where it started at. Punks taking over. You don't want no part of that. History, like the Robbies at Christmas. Welcome back to Origin City. And they say the top lonely, but we going up only. And they might have outbid me, but they never outdid me. Fresher than the day that they met me. And they say the top lonely, but we going up only. Yeah, you know my provenance, Spotty phenomenon. I bring the drama with my entourage at Comic-Con. We just trying to find the next collector, but made the front page like extra. Fans watching, got agents trying to track me. In the desert on the run like a track meet. We in the Beanie Mobile in the backseat. Spotty keep it bumping like acne, that's me. The Sir mix a lot of the pixel vault. Command and control like I'm next to all. I'm rocking more spots than a cheetah. Don't ignore the warning, homie, Courtney got the heater. Hillary and G-Funk, feel me, we are the punks. Squiggles, he the sergeant, Randy and Marv.